Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, man. Back from a fresh holiday here in Canada. What's going on, Dan?
It was a great holiday, man. Oh, it's amazing how that one extra day, what it does. Like it's just insane, man. I can't even explain it. It's like you wake up on Monday morning and it's like, oh, what? I could sleep a little longer. Oh boy, my phone's not gonna ring, and I'm just yeah. It's like I don't know what it is. It's just one extra day. 4-day work weeks, I think, is the way to go, right?
Oh, it is, man. It is, man. And a lot of people kind of like take those Fridays off too. So maybe some people got some 4-day work weeks. But if you're new here, this is Sales Chatter, the logistics podcast, where we aim to help 10,000 reps hit a million GP. I'm your co-host Ryan, aka the Logistics Monk, and we got Dan, my man, Super Mario. What'd you get up to on this weekend before we hit that intro?
Yo, brother, I did a ton of yard work, man. Just getting all the gardens in now that hopefully we got no more frost coming. Getting some gardens in, man. Enjoying myself, playing with the dogs. It was a great weekend.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That was a lot of people actually got to gardening. So we'll hit our intro video and then we'll talk about. We don't even know what we're talking about today, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we got her.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
So you're saying you have not started gardening yet?
We don't garden. We don't garden, man.
You don't garden.
Gardening is not our thing. We watch everybody else garden. I think my wife does want to get into gardening though, so maybe we'll do that next week. We got to go do that like Costco run, the Home Sense run, look at some planters and things like that. But not to always talk about myself, but we got our backyard done last week, so just enjoying that. Just enjoying that, man. We bricked everything.
And how was that entertaining as opposed to way better, eh?
Yeah, it's a lot. But you know what? It gives you just another place to like hang out and enjoy. And I don't know for anybody kind of in the audience too. My wife and I, this is our first home we have together, right? So this is the first experience like this, to have people in our backyard enjoying like an outdoor furniture. So it's just amazing. I can see why my parents were so happy to come home and just hang out in the backyard and just chill and barbecue and stuff like that, because we get caught in that like Monday to Friday grind, and it's just like these are the fruits that you pay for it, right? So
yes. Well, and this we've talked about it many times. This is where you unplug and you get to actually enjoy. And now your dogs can go outside without worrying about traipsing mud through the entire house. You can go out and on a beautiful day you go out there and you'll start going out there with your laptop and just working from outside.
I was thinking about that for today this morning, actually.
Brother, for sure. And you know what? It adds a whole other dimension to that quote unquote work-life balance.
Yep.
And being able to just sit in the sun or even under a canopy or whatever and enjoy the breeze and the smells of summer and work. It makes a huge difference, brother. Like I don't know about you, but for me, after winter, I feel so confined to 4 walls.
Yes.
And that's regardless if I decide to take my laptop into the kitchen, whatever. It's just I feel confined. And it's like the second the show's done, I'm out of the studio and I'm in the backyard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just sit down with my laptop and I do my work and I do what I got to do. And I mean, 95% of it can be done. You can, brother, nowadays, you can even take your Zoom meetings in your backyard. Like
Oh,
reality
100%,
is the
100%.
reality, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what people are doing, right? I think you and I have had this conversation many times. So anybody, this really is going to sound like first world problems by mentioning this, Dan. But I've been working at home prior to COVID, right? And for me,
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit bored of like being at home and being only with my dogs and stuff like that. And you and I have talked. It's like maybe I do like another side hustle or something like that, being face to
Mhm.
face with people. So anywhere to change up your environment, I think it's like really, it's really important. Whether you're in logistics or you're in a different field, it's really important to kind of refresh a little bit because like
Yeah.
for me it's just we don't need to have that synonymous thinking of like, hey, I'm just going to go outside and party. You can be
Yeah.
so productive outside, just
Hmm.
enjoying nature and having all that fun. So it's really cool. As Lisa is poolside from Vegas, I don't think I would have the commitment to actually do work within Vegas, being poolside, but the world is your oyster. So let's talk about that today, Dan, because I
Yeah.
think that's a great segue into that. We've talked about designing your life, so we won't talk about designing life a little bit there, but I do want to talk about understanding when you're kind of in that a little bit of a rut in your environment, things that
Mm.
has worked for you, because this actually is sparked as now I'm thinking about this. I spoke with a good friend last Thursday, and she travels the world all like everywhere, and she's just a regular person, just like us. And I asked her what's the secret, and her secret is that she changes her full time job every 3 years, and she has a part time job. She has a side hustle, so she actually works 7 days a week, and she's kind of designed her life for that. But then when she does travel and she goes away maybe once or twice a month, she's enjoying. She's living like a queen with like her best friend and things like that. So, I would love to hear some tips from you. What stories actually about yourself as well in something like that.
So, um, for starters, I found for me, anytime I need to change my environment, I just go to a coffee shop quick, like a Starbucks or something, and I just pull up my laptop and I start working. And when I was working at a very big brokerage, one of the main criteria of me going there was I get the operating system on my laptop. Like I dial in through a VPN. And they were like, "Well, why?" And I said, "Well, because if I'm on the road, I want to still be able to work." And that's exactly what I did. I'd go to a meeting, I'd stop at a coffee shop, grab myself a large cappuccino, and I'd sit down and I'd start working, whether it be entering notes from the meeting. Any little thing you can do to quote unquote disrupt the norm in your day that you're feel because like listen, let's be honest, a rut is just a grave with the ends kicked out, right? We can stay in a rut forever. We really can. And it kills us. It kills our productivity. It kills our creativity. Because here's the thing, Ryan, we're all creative people. And what I've found is if we don't keep our creativity sparked, we fall. Like we get less productive. We have less desire to do things. And that creativity, I think, is everything. And what sparks creativity? New, interesting. I mean, go to a park, turn on your Wi-Fi on your phone and use your phone as your hotspot. Like literally, we can work anywhere we want. And your friend that goes away, why? Okay, so but here's the thing. See, we look at vacation as vacation, right? I'm going on vacation. I'm leaving my laptop at home. I'm not doing work. That's just so if she goes on vacation, she's going on vacation and she's just using that location as a new work location. When I was in Dominican just before COVID hit doing the show, it was the most fun I've had in a long time. Like, cause you're on the balcony, you got again, you got the heat coming down on you, the sun coming down on you. You're like, it's why not? Why not go away once a month if you can? Right? Like it all depends. I mean, you going away once a month, you'd probably need a second job just to house the dogs, right? But and you have a house and you have a grass to cut, and that kind of stuff. So certain people, based on the roots that they've planted, can't do it, but other people can.
Yeah.
And what does it matter where you're calling from, as long as you're calling? And who cares? Like vacation becomes the norm. Like Lisa said, poolside in Vegas. She's sitting beside a pool, hanging out, having breakfast, making phone calls, sending emails.
Yep.
What's the difference with you doing it at your office or poolside in Vegas? Discipline, right? The ability to do it. But what's the ability? It's just putting things in order. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's just lining up everything, and I love that you said that. When you mentioned you're working while you're away, you're just changing the setting. You look
Yeah.
at a movie, not to compare to a movie or anything like that, but you look at a movie. If a movie was shot in one scene, it would be so boring. Other than there's movies that make it do work. Like I don't know if you've seen Ryan Reynolds' Buried, hell of a movie by the way. But there's like every movie, for 99% of the movies, they have a different setting, and I think it's really important for me. What's actually helped me is that I was used to, like, I work from home, so I'd always eat my lunch at home, and everyone talks about, yeah, you eat healthy and all that stuff. But what changed for me was hopping in my car and going somewhere else brand new for lunch every single day. Getting
Yeah.
a perspective, hearing people chatter, seeing different people, seeing different things, seeing nature and all those things. And I think for me, like we said, like we do put in long hours in this industry. This is not easy at all, no matter what anybody kind of tells you. So you are going to be putting long hours in grinding. So control the controllables. And what can you control? You control your environment. Doesn't matter if you're in Dominican and the internet is crappy. Maybe it might take 10 or 15 more minutes for that email in your outbox to get sent. But at the end of the day, don't let that be a hindrance to you. At the end of the day, you do have to enjoy your life, and you do have to ensure that, you're setting up the right way. Like you were kind of saying, I might have to get a second job to house these dogs. But something that's really important, Dan, that I always tell people is that you're not going to remember that project that you worked on really hard. You're not going to remember that customer that you're probably going to remember the customer, but you're not going to remember the exact load you were on. But you're going to remember that time that you went to Disney. You're going to remember that time. Lisa's going to remember that time that she's poolside at Vegas. There's going to be some kind of remarkable thing that kind of comes through there. So I'm a big fan of changing environments. Maybe I'll start doing that. Maybe tomorrow we'll be outside if the internet kind of goes from there. But I
There
think
you
it's
go.
just really cool to understand that we have so many options. So as you were kind of talking about ruts, as you mentioned, the metaphor that you just talked about, let's talk about shooting slumps. Prospecting slumps and everything like that, because we're so relatable to sales. If anybody's joined us on Thursdays, a lot of the stuff in the videos that we've kind of posted and we kind of give our thoughts are athletes, right? Like I would consider Arnold Schwarzenegger an athlete. We had Michael
Yeah,
Jordan,
100%.
we had Giannis and all those things. But let's talk about slumps, because I really think it's about getting back to the basics when it comes to, like, right now, a lot of people are maybe in that panic mode. We see a lot of companies doing a lot more prospecting because freight is down, and they should have been doing this in October. We had Jeff Blunt on here last year talk to us about prospecting and slumps, and he doesn't believe in slumps. But what are your opinions on slumps from two ideas, Dan? From A, being a manager, and B, being like a sufficient sales agent yourself, or a sales rep that only has to worry about themselves, because it's two different conversations.
It is. And unfortunately, for me, because I was an aggressive salesperson, I am an aggressive salesperson. I if I feel off, I'll do things to prime myself to get back to that state where I need to do it. Don't get me wrong, there's been days where I've been like, eh, fuck it, I just don't feel like it today, and I'm gonna go golfing, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that. But I always come back the next day twice as hard. And it's just the way I kind of disconnect and re-energize. As a aggressive salesperson that never really, I'm not going to say took no for an answer, because when prospects were like, I'm not interested, I understood that to be like, listen, I'm not interested. Okay, there'll be a point in time, but right now you just don't want to talk to me. Um, at the beginning, I was one of the worst managers you'd ever have, because you base everything on what you do or what you've done, right? You ever heard somebody say, well, if it was me, I would, but it's not. It's these people. And I actually went and took courses on being a manager, like 4 courses, full on courses, like 4 or 5 day courses, because I was like, I can't, I don't understand. Why would they not want this? And it's like, but just because you want it, Dan, doesn't mean somebody else wants it. And it's the probably one of the biggest lessons, besides giving up your business, like, giving up your business to an ops team and stuff. If you Because originally everyone's cradle to grave, and then you got to give up your business to an ops team that does it a little bit differently than you do. They might, you might lose a customer, but um, I'll tell you, it was the biggest change. And understanding why people do what they do, that for me was the game changer in being a manager, in being able to sit down with a rep that was in a slump and saying, okay, listen, like, let's look at this. Let's be honest with each other about what's really happening. When we first sat down, you told me you wanted this, this, and this. Is this process that you're in right now going to really get you there? No. Okay. So let's be honest with each other and understand why. So what's happening to this, energy? And a lot of the times it was personal. A lot of the times it was the feeling that the company is not behind them because of a decision the company, I mean, that kind of stuff, that like more managerial stuff where it's like, I wanted this, or this was supposed to happen, and the company wasn't behind me to do it. Ops messed up was a big one because our name is only as good as the trucks we put under it, right? When you're non-asset based. Um, those types of things were the biggest. And they're a challenge, Ryan. They're a challenge because I don't know if you've ever been there. But when you lose faith in your ops team, I mean, everything changes. The tone of your voice, how you prospect, how often you prospect. You start rationaling lies to yourself, saying you're wasting your time because why would I do it? I'm only going to lose the business in like 6 weeks. And I mean, I've been through all of that with some of the companies I was at. And, you know, it's all in your power to change it. And sometimes we just, it's, I'm not going to say impossible, but it feels impossible. You feel like you're at an impossible crossroads. And it's like, what am I going to do now? Did that answer the question? I don't know if
Yeah,
you,
no, it definitely did. It definitely did. It gave quite a bit of insight onto that. And I think my opinion on something like if you're going through a slump or anything like that, or if whatever you want to call it, you got to start. You can't. You look at baseball, like you look at Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, some of the top players, and they've always kind of said, when we're kind of in a slump, we got to kind of realize that we're not going to change up our approach. So understand that you've got to kind of add to it, right? It's kind of like the same thing with like losing weight and things like that. Like you're not gonna lose all that weight overnight. You got to kind of start batting singles, and that's the way that I kind of train myself. It's like, okay, what are my outputs like? I don't care about my inputs. What do my outputs look like? And if it's like, okay, I was making 50 calls a day 4 or 5 months ago, and maybe I'm at 10 or 15 now. It's like, okay, well, I'm not just going to try to get to 50 right away. It's like, okay, well, let me try to do 10 more. It's like the power of one more, just like by Ed Milet that he always talks about. It's just like, okay, one more call, one more email, one more video, kind of get me psyched up. So it's like when you kind of add those, you compound those, they turn out to be wins. And I don't know if you're the same way like me. Anytime like I'm sending out emails or calls and I actually had like a great email or a great call, I'm ready to do more. And somebody
yes.
told me the best time to actually be prospecting is when you actually close something or you've had a really good opportunity with something because you've got that little bit of a swagger, you got that little bit of a machismo kind of going on in terms of that. So I think for me, when I kind of look at slumps as everyone's kind of looking at right now, everyone like we see the doom and gloom that's on LinkedIn with stats and graphs and all that stuff. And we're gonna have Dean kind of break that down for us tomorrow with data day and what that actually means. But take it with a grain of salt in terms of that this is just kind of like the average. This is not you. You are not average, right? So for me, it's just like, okay, understanding like this is what's going on in the market, but it's not to blame. We both know people who right now who are thriving in these environments right now because they are salesmen or saleswomen, crushing it and being able to do those things. So understand for me when I'm kind of like in a slump, look at my outputs and control the controllables 100%.
Yeah. And I like something you said there where it's like the best time to prospect is when you close a deal or when you have a really good call or and unfortunately, a lot of us are like, man, I just closed the deal. I'm going out for lunch. Like, and it's cool to celebrate. But if you are in a slump, capitalize on those times where your energy and where your creativity is at its highest. One thing I also found was early in my career, I was very big on, you know, let me show other people how awesome I am because I was a very uh, I didn't have a lot of faith in myself. I didn't have a lot of um, internal belief in myself. So it was like I almost found it um, like medicine when I can show somebody else how well I was doing because somebody else would be like, "Oh my gosh, the Dan did amazing there." And I would actually get junior reps that just came to the company and say, "Why don't we like make calls together? So you listen to mine, I listen to yours." And when I found anyways, though early on in my career, when I had somebody listening to my calls or when I had somebody there that was like, okay, for this 2 hour block, we're going to make calls. Um, it's like a gym partner. You're more likely to go and give it more, because I didn't want that new rep to see me. I was like 5 years in the business or something, like, oh my god, I can't be seen as the guy. You know what I mean? And it that actually really helped me during slumps. I would do it almost every slump I had. I would just, hey, do you want to jump on calls for 2 hours? And then I kind of got locked into this time period. I found just before that time period, if I was just like, oh my god, I was like, okay, listen, like I got to show, I got to step up, right? I got to be the guy. And is kind of, I giggle to myself now, because I'm like, why on earth would I need that? But it's something that worked for me. Like it kind of stroked my ego when somebody was listening to me, and I would have a good call, or I would say things I would never normally say if I was just by myself,
Mhm.
just to get that kind of like props, like the wow, go for it, right? It's funny I say that because it's hilarious that I'm actually,
Well, I think that's a part of human nature too, like psychology,
yeah,
where it's like, you're more willing to like let yourself down, but if somebody like depends on you and they need it, it's like, okay,
yes,
well,
great way
you're
to
gonna
put it.
you're gonna gonna go to bat, or you gotta be on like your A game, because but then there's some people who are like the complete opposite, right? Where it's like all they need is themselves, and things like that. It just depends on
Yeah,
the
no, shut
personality. I'm
down if somebody else listens to them.
Exactly, for me,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I agree with that 100%. Like anytime I used to do sales calls, whether it be in logistics or when I worked at my previous career in telecom, I'd be listening to people's calls, and they'd be listening. It's like, okay, well, if they're listening to me, I'm going to try to sell. Like, these are inbound calls when I was at my previous career. So it's like, I want to sell everything. I don't care what anything kind of happens. I'm going to try to go for it, even if it's a good call or a bad call. But I think it's just really important. Like, you kind of bring up something that's important to me is like when I'm going through a slump is to have a partner, have an accountability
yeah,
partner, and have an accountability partner that is not just going to kind of rise you up like, hey, you got this, everything's going to be fine. It's like, okay, well, here's the accountability partner. I'm giving them my honest feedback, and they're going to give me my honest feedback too, because I have somebody right now that I talk to every single morning and afternoon, and we keep each other accountable. It's not about, hey, maybe tomorrow you'll do better, or like, maybe today will go better. It's just, okay, what have you done? How many did you make? How many prospecting calls or whatever? How many did I make? What happened? What kind of conversations? And we kind of learn together, right? And that's why I feel like the training environment. I don't know how it is with logistics, because I never got trained with a certain person, another rep or anything like that. It was always kind of, hey, we're bringing Ryan on board. You already know how to do this. Go at it. But like every company before, and you look at any kind of company outside of logistics, whether it be tech, it looks like call centers, look at everything like that. They have like a training environment. So you're going into there with a new experience with like 20 or 30 other people, even if it's 5 or 10, you have somebody to relay with and kind of bounce ideas off with. And I think that is amazing. As Gail kind of mentions, she has accountability groups for everything. And I think that's really important. Like for me, I have you, Dan, you've mentioned here many times that you have about 3 or 4 coaches that you have in your life. And it's important to kind of get different people with different backgrounds, because they're going to bring something different to you, right? And I think we have our inner circle, but if I only relate on our inner circle, then they're not going to help me with, hey, maybe I want to learn about doing my backyard, or like doing gardening, or doing something, maybe if it's like me being married to my wife for like 4 years. So it's just like you have different people that you can learn from every single way of life. And that's something that I encourage people to definitely increase your social circles, join some clubs,
mhm.
find some like-minded people, and you just never know.
And those clubs, those social circles could actually get you out of your slump in sales very easily, easily, easily. And we, I don't know, it's interesting because you ever got one of those inspirational ideas where like nothing can stop you and everything's so easy. um I remember doing it when I was running Little Conversations Today. I remember on December 9th I decided I wanted to do a Christmas special, and I went out to New York Times best-selling authors. I went out to people like Bob Proctor when he was alive. I went out to like all these huge people whose schedules are jammed. And I said, I need an hour of your time and I need it before Christmas. And it was like, I never thought of the obstacles. I just had a vision of what this thing would look like together. And I got 15 people to give me an hour of their time for free. and talk about, gratitude at Christmas and a revolution for the new year. And I remember when it was all done, it was done by about the 14th. And like in 5 days, I've asked, scheduled, and recorded with some of the busiest people on the planet. And I was just like, wow, how did that, like, not one person said no, there was zero friction. And it was that vision. I never thought of the what ifs. It was like, no, this is gonna happen. This is gonna do it. And since then in my life, it's been that's been what I've been doing. It's always the possibility. And it might not go on the exact route that I want, but it's always the possibility, not the obstacle.
Yeah. And you never like stay like, hey, I'm not going to do this because what if? And I think, one thing that you said too, like that I can relate to exactly what you said about little conversations, your previous place, sorry, the podcast and stuff like that was that, when we brought Jeb Blunt on here, like I like not idolized, but I've loved Jeb Blunt like since I've kind of gone into sales because anybody who gets into sales and they kind of like go on Reddit or they kind of Google research, what are some of the books that you should read and things like that. And fanatical prospecting is always at the top of the list with there. And it's just like reading through these books, like, sales IQ, HQ. And then I know you read one, Selling in a Crisis and things like that. And it's just like, okay, this person is just a regular person, he just has that stature and you kind of don't put people on a pedestal, but understand and respect their time too. And I think for me, when I come back to talking about slumps, is like understanding that I am where I need to be at right now in my life, but that's not an excuse to kind of stay here. Right.
Yes.
Because whatever I want, Dan, is on the other side of discomfort. And I heard that from Jay Shetty when he was in Toronto a couple months ago when my wife got tickets. Was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, it's so true. We're talking about, doing our show outside. That's going to be discomfort at first. A rabbit or a bird comes up, and then my dogs are barking. And be like, okay, well, let's bounce to it. What's the worst that's going to happen? And I think that's kind of guided my life in the slumps is go for those shots because what is the worst that's going to happen? No one's going to kill me. No one's going to kind of come through the phone. I've never had, what? Let's talk about this a little bit too. We talk about like prospecting calls and not wanting to be annoying because so many times in my head, I'll be like, oh, I don't want to disrupt this person. And then we have people on like LinkedIn, all like, oh, a manager has, they're so busy and they don't have time for you and all that stuff. But I've been in this industry for 6 years and I've never had somebody swear at me ever on the phone. In terms of like a shipping manager, maybe a trucker, maybe a couple of carriers have done that, but I've never had a shipping manager swear at me or been disrespectful. And that's the one thing I've always said, what's the worst going to happen? They're going to say no. Okay, well, okay, then I'll just move on to the next people on my list who will be going to that yes, as we talk with Andrea Walsh, right? So
Yeah, I've had them swear at me. I've had them hang up on me. I've had them like quite a bit in my career. And you know what's funny, Ryan, is I always call them back. I call them back the next day. I'll call them back 2 days later and I'll say, listen, I called you yesterday at 10 o'clock. You hung up on me. It was obviously a very bad day. And you know what most of the conversation is it wasn't a bad day. It's just I get so many calls of people that have no idea what they're talking about.
mm-hmm.
And I would always be like, and I mean, listen, trust me, I was, I think 2-3 years in my career. So it's not like I had the tenure that I have now. And I was like, no, I fully understand him. I'm like 2-3 years in and that authenticity came back.
Yeah.
But I can say in the last probably decade, that has dwindled off very much because I think people are more respectful of people's careers. And what I mean by that is one thing that I used to say to traffic managers when they used to say, you know what, stop calling me, man, like da-da, and they used to yell. I used to say, you know what, I'm very sorry. I must have caught you at a bad time. But just please understand one thing. Your company has a sales force to sell your product.
Yep.
If they didn't, you wouldn't have a job. I'm just doing my job.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many times the traffic managers were just like, like you can hear the breath come out of them. And my whole perspective on that was, what's the worst that can happen? They've already said no. So why not stand up for myself? Because I'm in a very respectable career and I'm looking to help you.
Yep.
I'm not looking for I mean, do I want to get paid for it? Sure. Am I doing it for practice, not profit? No. But it's not, the commission is not my first desire. It's, can I really help? Can I really do something for you at this particular time in your career and in your company's logistics practice. And when I learned to stand my ground like that, everything changed, because you become confident in what you
Yeah.
do, and you can help. And this is where, and this as well. This is where, when you start having a conversation, very quickly you can determine, I can't help this person,
Oh, easily,
or I
easily,
could
easily.
possibly help.
Easily. I think like as you kind of get more experience, like your qualifying becomes so thin. If your qualifying is not thin, like I know within like the first couple like seconds, I really think. And I think for me, as you're kind of saying, like you've had you calling people like back after they hung up. Maybe I'll do it if I ever get hung up on or I get sworn at. I'll definitely give them a call back a couple days after, because a lot of people, especially in the corporate world, they're going through different things. This end of quarter, or they got some budget cuts, and I had a friend kind of tell me this morning, was like she's kind of waiting on a promotion. But they're going through that structural, that rebuilding of a corporate. And like for me, from my side, she's on the corporate side. So for me to kind of understand, I was like, holy shit, I never thought about that. Right? It's just like for me, kind of being a sales agent here and kind of controlling what I want to control too. And I think that's extremely important to understand that it's whatever they're kind of going through. But for me, I don't know. I feel like, Dan, I kind of this is I know we kind of give out tips and tricks every single day, but this is personally my opener for every single prospecting call that I do, Dan. But I'll honestly say, like, hey, this is Ryan at X. This is for what I say, full transparency. This is a cold call. Do you have 20 seconds? Let me know why I'm calling. If not, we can just hang up the phone and kind of move on from there. Give them the choice. Give them the out. I've told them that it's a cold call, and I've gotten this from R-Man, and I forget the other guy's name. At 30 Minutes to President's Club. Great podcast for any kind of other sales reps, more in the SaaS sales, but a lot of like transferable stuff. But I think when I kind of deflect it and understand, like, hey, this is who I am. This is not somebody who is like going to pretend to want to get to know. Like, I hate when people are like, they try to do the referral thing, right? Like they try to be friends with them right away. It doesn't work, but find your own niche. But for me, what I like to do is like let them know that this is a cold call, give them an out. Nobody takes the out though, but it's good that I give them the out, right? So it's kind of 100%. Really important.
Bob Burton taught me very early in my career, always give the prospect an out. And it's funny because if you look at digital sales, right? Like, so if you look at like digital marketing, this was a huge phenomenon originally in digital marketing, is like, if you're going to do a Facebook ad, make the Facebook ad look like a post. Right. So it's like it's catching people off guard that it's a sales pitch, but catch it as a post. And what people did is they got offended because they're like, I thought this was a post and it's an actual, like, you're trying to sell me something. So it's like, you're trying to be my friend, but you want my wallet. You don't want my friendship. And now if you look, the majority of people that are winning in the digital space are people that say, hey, FYI, this is an ad.
Yep.
And the big thing with the ad is, I'm going to try and sell you X, but let me not try and sell it to you. Let me explain to you why you need it. If this is you need this. And they're actually qualifying in their ads now because they don't want somebody just to click and waste their money if it's not for them. And the fact that you're saying this is a cold call, right? There's no, I mean, that's full transparency, Ryan. There's like
another line that I use, I play around with, like I kind of test a little bit, is like, hey, this is a cold call. What is it? Just so you know, I hate making these as much as you hate receiving these. You kind of like get onto those kind of middle things. But I just think it's so funny that you say that, because I was just laughing about that. I got like one of those ads things for like an ice cream company, and they qualified me. They're like, hey, do you live close to this thing? Yes or no? And then after that, it's like, do you enjoy ice cream? Yes or no? What flavors do you like? Yes or no? And then it's like after probably like 6 or 7 questions, it was like, okay, well, here's a 50% off coupon. And I was like, okay, what if they gave me the 50% off coupon right away and it's somewhere like in Erin where you live, right? And it's just like, well, there's no way in heck that I'm going to go and go to this ice cream place. Maybe want to come to visit you, but I'm not going to remember to get the ice cream, right? But I love that you said that, because
you're going to forget the coupon anyways, because it's going to be sitting somewhere in your, you know what I mean? For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. And who wants to eat ice cream driving all the way back to Pickering, right? So
yeah, exactly. Well, we have to sit at the picnic tables and eat it at the one ice cream store in town, right? So
maybe they got to hit us up with some coupons now as they're listening to our things. But
but I mean, this is what we talked about for a while, doing the podcast in a different location, meeting at a coffee shop somewhere and doing the podcast, right? And think about it. We go do that, and then we say, okay, we're going to work for the next 3 hours, kind of just chilling beside each other and chatting. Like when you go home that day, it's productive as hell because it's a completely
Oh.
different environment.
I've done that with my sister because so my sister's like studying, she's going back to school in September. So she's doing like as a mature student. I don't know if it's the same thing in the States, but as a mature student in Canada, you got to kind of do some English and math. You got to kind of do some pre-courses and then they'll kind of place you for whatever program you want. So she has like so much homework. And yeah, you're so right. Me and her would go to Starbucks and like we both have our AirPods on. We're both working away. We're both right there. And it's just like the productivity that we did was like,
Yeah.
like it was like crazy kind of thing. And then when you come home, you're right, Dan. It's like, do I really want to stop working? Let me continue this, and then just kind of keep. And we talk about momentum a lot, right? So momentum is something that you just start, and it's just gonna kind of keep going. Just like
Yeah,
Jeff, as we
it's
saw,
everything.
Jeff has had his show yesterday, a few hiccups, but he's gonna ride on. He's gonna continue to ride on his really good. He had Bill Robinson from Wellington Group of Companies, a guy that I kind of know of, and I think Dan, you might know him as well. But it's good to kind of see. So just understand anytime if you're brand new watching this and you're in that, whether in your slump or you're starting off from the beginning, know that to embrace the suck, as we kind of talked about last week, and just kind of learn from it. Don't stay there. Just always keep going because, hey, I'm learning with YouTube, as everybody knows the Logistics One Show. I know my first like 100 videos are going to suck, but at the end of the day, that's where growth kind of happens. As long as I'm learning something every single time.
That's true.
That's
That's a
good. So,
perfect place to end it, brother.
yeah, let's end it, my man. So, if you found value in this was an amazing video today. Please share this with your neighbor, your friend, everybody picking up all the fireworks today. There's so much fireworks on the side of our houses because of Queen Victoria, but we're excited to kind of see everything that's kind of happening. Please check us out. We are on, 11 o'clock every single day. But Dano, let everybody know about the amazing website that we have and what's tomorrow.
Yeah, so we're broadcasting from Sales Chatter Live now instead of our personal LinkedIn pages. So make sure you check out and follow Sales Chatter Live in order to do it. And then check out saleschatterlive.com. Free tools, all of the podcasts. Go to your favorite podcast station, subscribe. I think we're what now, going on 9 or 10 different podcast stations we're on, and we keep, every time we find a new one, we jump on it. So we're on Alexa now and Amazon and all the other cool ones. So join us there, my friends, and we'll see you tomorrow. Data Day tomorrow. The Diener and Jeff's coming back for Data Day.
All right, take care, everybody. See you tomorrow.